good answers to the questions are decent and noteworthy. Happy viewing.
Does the space program have any proclivity towards doing an offensive attack on a civilization that they think they could conquer and overwhelm? Or is it mostly going to be defensive when they're out there trying to see what's around and getting attacked?
Well, it depends on who is in charge of the Navy assets at the time. These people follow orders. So if they have a problem with attacking another species, they have to follow orders.
Well, in the case of a movie like Avatar, we have a clear example of our own government/military industrial complex in what would appear to be the future, having developed a space program, going to another planet with people who are tall and have blue skin, but there was something there that they really wanted, which was this unobtainium. Do you think Avatar is describing something that is actually happening? Are there certain cases where planets are invaded for their materials?
Well, I do know that certain aspects of the ICC, but especially Dark Fleet, are going out on offensive conquering missions, and they're doing this alongside the reptilians.
Well, and I do also remember Pete Peterson telling me that many of the craft that you see in Avatar are exactly identical to stuff that he had actually seen or worked on. I'm wondering if any of them looked familiar to you when you saw the movie.
I didn't witness a whole lot of craft that flew inside of an atmosphere. So all of those craft were clearly designed to fly inside of some sort of a dense atmosphere. The craft that I saw were not built to operate in atmosphere.
All right, well, speaking of James Cameron, not only do we have Avatar, he also had that movie The Abyss, where he describes extraterrestrials underneath the surface of the ocean. And here we have William Tompkins in a very interesting discussion about undersea bases. Let's take a look.
I did get hired by General Dynamics for a Navy program. And this program was to locate German submarines, anti-submarine warfare program. And what's interesting about this is that the Navy selected the Lockheed P-3 patrol bombers to be the air vehicles to locate German ships and submarines. This is the Cold War now. And so there was roughly 15 other NATO countries who were using the same aircraft, the same electronics, the same sensing systems in the communication system, all of it engineered and designed in U.S. And so, like, United States had 120 of these, and the NATO countries had like another 60 of them, all out looking for German submarines. But that's not quite the numbers. It's more like we had 2,000 of these, and NATO had another 1,000 of these. Not quite that high. And remember, there were only 11 Soviet submarines operating at that time. There were many of them that were in training operations, but they weren't tactical. And so here we got 2,800 P-3 aircraft flying all around the planet, 24 hours a day, looking for submarines. Well, gee whiz, that's not exactly what we were doing either. And there's a title to the program, which is the mission, ASW, Anti-Submarine Warfare. But there's also one which is ASUW. And so the U is for unidentified extraterrestrials. And so this was the second largest amount of military money allocated for a program on the planet. It's peacetime, but it's sort of a war condition. And we have all of these airplanes out, and it became necessary for a group, which I then was manager of, working for Data Graphics, which is a subsidiary of General Dynamics. And later on, I worked for the corporate office and the red team at the corporate level. And when we look at the size of this program, the number of personnel that have to be trained to fly these aircraft, the upgrading continually of the sensing systems, the underwater systems, of the satellite system programs that were required to be on board these aircraft. It's absolutely unreal. What we were really doing was looking for extraterrestrial vehicles in the ocean and in the large lakes and their bases on the bottom of the ocean. People don't realize how much money, how much time, and how many people have to be involved in these programs. And what are you doing? You're looking for extraterrestrials. Do you realize what we're saying? I mean, you're looking for extraterrestrial vehicles and bases. Your Navy is.
Well, the first thing that strikes me about the interview footage that we just saw here is the scope of this classified military operation to try to actually identify who is on our planet, where are they, what is their infrastructure, what is their agenda. It would have to involve a massive amount of effort. So what were your thoughts on that?
I have heard of operations similar to what he was talking about, of fleets that were combing the ocean, looking for submerged bases, and also USOs, unidentified submersible objects, I believe. Now, from what I understood, very few people in that fleet would know what they were actually looking for. Everyone would go about doing their normal jobs. It'd just be a normal mission or a training mission, they'd be told. But just very few intelligence people in that fleet would know exactly what was going on.
Well, to have 2,800 P-3 aircraft airborne at all times, this is obviously before the era of accurate geostationary satellites.
Right.
I mean, we're talking about a massive, massive operation here. How long do you think this had to have been done for?
Until they had strong enough sonar that would penetrate to the deepest parts of the ocean, and until we had the satellite coverage we needed. They had some sort of groups of aircraft or Navy vessels that were combing the ocean looking for non-terrestrial.
Do you think that there might have been a temptation at some point to tell the public, hey, we're aware of this extraterrestrial presence, we're doing the best we can, we're cataloging it now? Or was it just really important that the whole thing be secret to avoid a panic of some kind?
Well, just in general, the Navy, I mean, you hear loose lips sink ships. Information is very compartmentalized to begin with, but this is not long after, World War II. So everybody still had a different mindset than we do today. If the government told you to, stick a lit cigar in your ear, you'd say, yes, sir, give me another, That's just the way people were programmed.
So Tompkins is also discussing another point of corroboration with some things that you've said, which is that there were, in fact, underwater bases to be seen. So could you review for us what your knowledge is about the existence of these bases, and where are they, what do they look like, who's in them, et cetera, et cetera? Are there different types that would be underground or underwater?
And there's a number of different types that are underwater. I even read about large underwater bases that were mobile, that moved along the bottom of the ocean and was doing some sort of core sampling or testing of the material that was passing over. And if you located where one of these were, you would then have to track it, since they were moving. So they would have ships that would just track a mobile underwater base.
Before we taped this segment, we were looking at just something like that on the internet. Let's take a look right now at that little. This is an excerpt from a video describing something very similar to what Corey just described. 2.5 mile wide round object that seems to be tracing patterns on the sea floor. So do you think that that is an example of one of these craft?
That very well could be. I mean, a 2 mile wide object is not going to be pushed in that unusual way under the ocean by a current.
So what would they be doing in a case like that? What's the objective?
From what I was told, these were like bases, but also laboratories. They were going around doing core samples, finding out, what was at different depths below the surface, below the floor of the ocean.
Why would somebody want to have an undersea base if there's a honeycomb Earth and they could just pop into one of those combs underground?
There's a lot of different regions inside the honeycomb Earth that belong to different groups that, they claim as their territory. Also, under the ocean, there are a lot of different beings coming here that could care less about us, could care less about any animals flying in the sky or running around. All they care about is the life forms in the ocean and the ocean itself. They see the ocean as a life form. And a lot of these are aquatic species.
So what do you think was going on when James Cameron made The Abyss? It seems a very specific idea was being conveyed. We also have reason to believe that some of his other movies had disclosure in them as well, like Avatar. What do you think The Abyss was intended to get people ready for?
It was most likely groups within the military-industrial complex starting to seed our consciousness, which is what they've been doing through movies and television shows for a long time.
Yeah, that definitely makes sense, because this is an ongoing effort of 4 generations now of disclosure to get us ready for the truth.
Right, and as you've already reported, when Sony got hacked, it was proven that DARPA and these other groups were passing on ideas for movies and television shows.
Exactly.
Subscribe to the channel. Press the bell so as not to miss new episodes. Take care of yourself.